half a day. Tonight, the Department of Public Health and Social Services will confirm 105 new cases of COVID-19. This, by far, represents the largest number of confirmed cases in a day since the start of this pandemic.
And with that statement, the governor kind of shades the facts just a little bit to get what she wants by making a bold statement that today 105 positive tests were reported by Department of Public Health and Social Services. She neglected to detail out that 71 of those tests were 3 days report from the military, combined with the double-digit government of Guam test. The impact of that statement was her justification to tighten the restrictions on P-Core 1. And now here we are, 7 days away from a primary election, and the world is a whole lot different than it was before. And a lot of things have changed, even more so than last week. Once again, we find ourselves back in P-Core 1, and in such a strict environment that even broadcast personalities in safe, secure, and clean studios feel the need to wear personal protective equipment even when they're broadcasting over the airwaves. It's a situation so unusual that even reporters doing Zoom interviews are feeling compelled to wear PPE equipment just short of bunny suits. And here's a picture of some medical technicians wearing biohazard protection gear, which is often referred to as bunny suits for those of you not familiar with the way I use that term. As of today, drive-through, curbside, delivery food at restaurants only. No walking into or dining in restaurants. And starting Monday, banks will be closed and only ATM transactions will be allowed. All government operations that have public services will be closed. The judiciary is closing court facilities. Department of Public Education is telling their 4,000 employees to stay at home, and distance learning is the only option available. So it's not okay to shop in stores that practice and follow COVID-19 safety rules, or restaurants that have been successfully practicing and following COVID safety rules. And as a result, dozens more small businesses will close their doors forever as a result of this second island-wide lockdown. And thousands more people will be forced out of their jobs for months or years to come until the economy recovers, which will only make a bad situation worse when you consider that federal unemployment ends on December 31st, 2020, and we have nothing to replace it locally. We are in a pandemic so serious, public health stopped testing people because they can't process all the tests they've already done. But politicians think it's vital that 30,000 to 40,000 of our people put their health and lives at risk by going to vote in a primary election next Saturday, August 29th, an election that will have very little impact on our island's future. I say very little impact is because all the senator candidates are advancing to the general. 11 of the 21 village races will be advancing to the general uncontested. The public auditor will be advancing to the general election uncontested. There's only one real contested race in this 2020 election, and that is the congressional race. But the majority of the senators in the 35th Guam Legislature had a chance to cancel this primary election because there were about 90% of the races are uncontested, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. A pandemic is very serious for people who have chronic health conditions like diabetes, cancer, cardiac disease, high blood pressure, or any of the metabolic syndrome diseases. It's very dangerous for people who live in multi-generational households, and it's very dangerous for households with children, as we see that this COVID-19 is rapidly hitting children across the nation and around the world. That's why the senators in the 35th did pass Bill 330, which is now Public Law 3595, which allowed early voting. And the Guam Election Commission set up a very strong, clean, and safe system for early voting. But the system was only capable of handling between 50 and 200 voters a day, but the governor shut it down. So now there is no safe early voting for our elders, people with chronic diseases, or people living in multi-generational households, or families with children. And now, since we can't vote safe because the early voting has been closed down, you have to ask yourself this question. If the safety protocols and procedures at the Guam Election Commission offices were deemed unsafe, so that the operation that handled between 50 and 200 voters a day was shut down to protect voters, how are they going to be able to protect between 35 and 40,000 voters on one day at 21 different locations? The governor even hinted a possibility that if people don't stay home because this is so serious, that she might return to roadblocks if she doesn't see the numbers coming down. So you want to talk about mixed messages coming from our politicians. On one hand, this is a serious pandemic. We've had a string of days with double-digit increases in positive test results. We can't process all the tests we've done because we've run out of capacity. This is so dangerous that we're going to shut down the economy again and drive more businesses into bankruptcy and thousands more people into unemployment. We're already over 40,000. 2/3 of the island's workforce is already unemployed. This might take it up to 3/4. It's too dangerous for us to shop, dine, and go to the bank and beach and vote early, but it's safe enough for us all to go stand in lines at polling stations for long periods of time among groups of strangers that we don't know where they've been or who they've been in contact with. I'm very upset about politicians who are so calloused about our lives that they're willing to use them, risk them playing their political games. Since we can't vote safe any longer, our only choice is to vote smarter. And it's time to stop electing politicians who care more about political party politics and taking care of the financial security and safety of politically well-connected insiders, and start electing public servants who care more about the financial security and safety of the people of Guam. Now, the reason I refer to this primary election as a meaningless election, as I've said earlier, 90% of the races are not competitive. In other words, no challengers, with the exception of the congressional race. And that's the race on the Democrat side between Mike Nicholas, who swore loyalty to the people of Guam over loyalty to the Democrat Party of Guam. And the Democrat parties are so upset that they are forcing this primary election to take place, and at the very last minute, literally 96 hours before the deadline for filing, they drafted Robert Underwood to challenge Mike Nicholas. And the fact that they drafted him and 96 hours before the deadline shows me that this is a pure political hit job. Even Will Castro notified the public back in January of 2020 of his intentions to run in opposition to Mike Nicholas for the congressional race as a Republican candidate. There was a lot of thought put into that by him, obviously. Not so much thought put in by Robert Underwood. That's why I believe Robert Underwood is only running for the congressional seat to avenge the injured pride of the Democrat Party. So it's come to this. Since we can't vote safe, we need to vote smart. Because only by changing the people charting Guam's future course will we be able to change our course for a better course. So for those of you planning to vote in the Democrat Party, my recommendation is that for congressional delegate, vote for Mike Nicholas. There are only 2 Democrat incumbents in the 35th Guam Legislature that I would recommend based on watching them work for the past couple of years for passage into the 36th Guam Legislature. That's Therese Terlahi and Talina Cruz Nelson, who have proven by their actions and their votes that they are more concerned about the people of Guam than the Democrat Party of Guam. I also recommend that we vote for only new candidates, and only new candidates in addition to Therese and Talina. That's how we teach all politicians, present and future, that they ignore the people of Guam at their own risk. So I'm recommending that in addition to voting for Therese Terlahi and Talina Cruz Nelson, you vote for Frank Leon-Guerrero, Fred Berdalio, Frank Meno, John Ananich, Dave Duenas, Chris Carrillo, and of course BJ Cruz for public auditor. Everybody's going to advance to the general election. That's the unfortunate situation here. So this primary election, other than an education tool, is basically meaningless. On the Republican side of the primary election, there are only three incumbents, and all 3 are running for re-election. They are James Moylan, Tello Taitagui, and Mary Camacho Torres. Vote for those 3, and vote for Dominic Hernandez, and of course me. My real name is Joaquin Leon-Guerrero, and I also have Ken Leon-Guerrero underneath my name at number 4. Vote for Frank Blas Jr., Vince Borja, Don Equaline, Michelle Armenta, Sandra Reyes Seao, and J.I. Cruz, and vote for B.J. Cruz for public auditor. And everybody will advance to the general election. I don't recommend giving any votes to recycled senators in the Republican Party. Tony Atta and Chris Duenas both fought valiantly. First, they voted for the super secret massive retroactive pay raises and fought to keep them, as did Joanne Brown, testifying in support of keeping the pay raises in place. These 3 recycled senators have proven by their acts, votes, and deeds that they are more concerned about their financial security and the security of politically well-connected insiders than the security of the people of Guam. I'm Ken Leon-Guerrero, number 4 on the Republican side of the ballot, and since we can't vote safe, let's vote smart and teach present and future politicians a lesson that will be valuable for the children's future, our grandchildren's future, for decades to come.